It wasn't too long ago that I was walking into the school, and I was listening to a teacher who was trying to teach about God, and I think it was probably the maybe kindergarten or something like that. They were small, and we're trying to figure out how to do this. How can you really teach God to ones with their very small, but they were trying to do that. And so the teacher said, now we've talked about this, and where is God? And little boy, his name was Billy, a coincidence, well, I know where God is. And so the teacher said, well, where is God? And he said, well, in my bathroom. The teacher said, what? Why would you say that? And he said, every morning my dad goes to the bathroom door and says, my God, are you still in there? You know? That's kind of hard to say where God is. It's very difficult. St. Augustine said that God is an infinite circle with the center that is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. How do we get with that? How do we talk about God? And we hear in this beautiful Shema Yisrael, which is the first reading, and of course it's in the gospel as well. And it's the Shema Yisrael. If you ever go to a Jew's home, and if you see a little thing on the outside of the door, up here about like this, in a little glass vial, that is inside that little glass vial is the Shema Yisrael, which is what we heard in our first reading today, and of course in the gospel. And it is a tremendous, shall we say, it's just an anchor for all Jews, and even for us, because it's not just in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament as well. That God, we have to love God with all our heart, with all our mind, without all our strength, all of this. And that's a high thing. It's not an easy thing to do all the time, because a lot of things seem to get in the way. There's all kinds of things. So maybe for a few minutes, just think about what is your highest goal? What's the highest for you? And think about that. Now, hopefully, everybody would raise their hand and say, yes, I want to be with God in heaven. I want to live that way. But things get in the way. Money, pride, reputation, all these kinds of things, they get in the way. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having good salaries. There's nothing wrong with that. But do we put God first? Is God first in our finances? Is God first in my, relationships with people? Or do I kind of use people, etc.? How many times have we really got on our spouse and tried to one up on somebody? How many times have we said, I love my kids so much that I want to give them everything they want, even if they shouldn't have it? And we gush things into them rather than, teaching them how to not have something. And that's perfectly good, not to have everything. Because when we teach our children, you can get anything you want, it just turns into awful things as they get older. So we have to begin to say, okay, where is my heart? Do I get up every single day and say, okay, God, I'm going to get on this day and I'm going to make you the whole person of myself to be with you? Can we do that? But until we do that, we're not going to be able to love those people we ought to love. See, if God is first, he has to be first. All the time, every time, always, no matter what's happening, God has to come first. And he can't do it any other way. God said, well, this time you can, I'll just take second place. God can't do that. He cannot do that, because then he'd stop being God. God is the fullness of everything. In fact, when you see the Shema Yisrael, the Lord your God is one. Our God is one. There's not all kinds of ones. There's only one, and that's God. All the other ones are false gods. So we have to kind of be thinking about, do I really put God first in everything? My language, how I drive. How many times do we get on the, just crazy way that we drive? We get all flustered because somebody cut us off. And I know that the people in this parish, when somebody happens to do that, I know that, you all roll down the window and say, "Go to heaven." You don't? How many times? We have to put God first. If we don't, it's just discombobulated. And when we work that hard to put God first all the time, in every situation, no matter what, then we start to be able to love our children, our spouses, our parents, our neighbors, in a way we hadn't thought before. We have to put God first. It's absolutely, there's no getting around it. And, so maybe think about that. Do I take time to God for God every day? And that's not easy. If you have a couple of young children, it's hard. They take a lot of energy. But how often do we just don't think about that? So in this time of coming towards the end of the year, the liturgical year, is if you think about, I'm getting closer. There's a lot more years behind me than there is in front of me, especially for me. So, am I doing my best? So be thinking about that, and when you get in your car, when your kids are asking for things, maybe say, honey, no, you don't need that, but I want it. Okay, but you don't need it. I want it. Then you can use my dad's, he'd say, Billy, save your money, and then you can buy it. I never seem to have the money to buy it, though, And, I turned out okay. Don't argue with me. But to say, okay, God first, all the time. And we're going to be a lot happier. And the people around you are going to be a lot happier. So I had a couple things here that came from literature that I like to read sometimes. And one of these little stories is from Dostoevsky in The Brothers Karamazov. I hope I said that right. It's kind of Jersey Russian. So he tells a story about someone who was sent into hell. She was not very, very nice at all. But there was an angel in heaven that was trying to get God to pull her out of hell and bring her into heaven. And so he said, well, I don't know if she should be. And then the angel said, well, one time, she gave an onion to a poor man. And so, okay, I'll take that. And so, God lowered a rope with an onion, and she grabbed onto it, and he was pulling her up. And as she was pulling up, other people wanted to kind of get on the gravy train as well. And all of a sudden she started to, stop, this is my ride, you don't belong here, this is for me, this is just for me. And all of a sudden she found out she let go of the rope and fell back into hell. She was more worried about herself than others. And Bishop Sheen tells a story when he was working with in the leper colonies in Africa. He was an ambassador for the Pope and things, and he was in a leprosarium, and it's a terrible, terrible disease. And this nun had been there working for several years, and very, very devoted, kind, and just wonderful like this. And she was taking care of one particular man who was really not very nice at all. And the guy said to her, sister, I wouldn't do what you're doing for $1 million. And she looked up and smiled and said, neither would I. Which one do you want to be?